Hi everyone, I'm Jody Barrows. Welcome to our marathon class. Now this is class number 3 and we're going to show how to put your sashing on your quilt, and we do it a little bit different. Of course, I always do everything different, and I think you'll really like the way that we do our sashings. Now today is Tuesday, November of 2024, and this is our 3rd class, and we will have a 2-hour class today. Now yesterday we had 2 classes, 2 2-hour classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. You can go to any of our venues, Facebook, YouTube, squareandasquare.net. All of those are teaching areas that we have. And this class has been open to the public. This is my Christmas gift to you of teaching this marathon class. I was just looking at what we accomplished yesterday in 2 2-hour classes. We looked at how to make our little red stars, which are in the middle of our block, and that was our first class. We did the 4 patches and the flying geese and taught lots of tricks and techniques on how to make that faster and more accurate and more fun. When you can see your work coming together and it's clean and it's neat and there's no dog ears and no threads and everything is just looking pristine, it's exciting and it's motivating, and it helps us continue down that patchwork path to getting our quilt all accomplished, beautiful, and ready to go. Then we worked on more flying geese in the dark colors to make what we call the crown going around the star. Now this was the original quilt. We call it Moonlight Star. It is a pattern that you can purchase and get a hard copy. We'll send it to you. Or if you want it immediately and you can't wait to get started, you can go right to our website, squareandasquare.com, and that's where you purchase all of the supplies, the books, the rulers, the patterns, the fabric, the kits, and just use those search bars everywhere you go. But it's also fun just to kind of meander around like you're shopping in a quilt shop. We've got lots of kits and just beautiful things and lots of teaching to help get you going. We're not just about selling the books and the rulers and the fabric. We want to motivate you and teach you and educate you so that you can get to that beautiful fabric and those wonderful books that you've purchased and get your quilts made. I was watching a quick little video this morning of a girl from a quilt shop, and it was a little satire joke type thing where she was a quilter and she was talking to a non-quilter, and she was talking about how she bought this tower of fat quarters and then she cut it up into little pieces and you couldn't really even see the design on the fabric after that. And the other girl was just, you know, all of these facial expressions of you bought this beautiful fabric and then you cut it up, and you know, but the part of the point of it was that she didn't finish it, you know, and she acted like that was okay. And it is okay. Sometimes that happens. We lose our motivation, desire, whatever, to finish a project. But we have to think about why that happens, because we don't want that to happen all the time. And usually we don't finish a project, of course, because of the time issue, and life comes in and throws you a curveball. But lots of times, you know, all of our stuff is so speedy to work on. Even intricate quilts and even more intricate quilts move along so quickly, we don't lose our desire because of that time. And even if we do get thrown a curveball and we don't get back to it for an extended length of time, we are motivated to get back to it because it looks wonderful and we'll be able to just dive right in. So I think the time issue is a lot for people. And I think another thing is space. You know, we talk about that you need to have a dedicated space, even if it's just in the corner of your living room. When I first started, my sewing machine was on my ironing board. I dropped it down to the level where I could sit and sew, and I had a tiny little corner about 4 by 6 in my living room, and that was where I did my sewing. I had a dedicated space to work in. I had a little table. I had a little cabinet to keep my supplies in. And that's when my boys were young. I remember one of them being in that infant baby stage where they learned to roll, and how he rolled over to the corner of the living room where I was at and working, and then just kind of laid on his tummy and played with some fabrics and things that I had there. And so you work with what you have, at the time, and you do the best you can with whatever it is you're dealing with. Maybe you're a mom and you're taking care of little ones, or maybe you're older and you're taking care of loved ones. Give yourself a dedicated space so that when you do have 5 minutes or 15 minutes or the luxury of an hour, you can go right to that little happy spot and get started working. If you're constantly having to move and pick up whatever your crafting is that you're doing, then it's hard to use all of those little snippets and pockets of time that you have, because it's going to take you 15 minutes to get everything out, and then you're going to have to clean it off the table to serve supper later that day. So give yourself a dedicated space to work in. And if that's all you get out of the video today, then you're going to be a lot farther down the road and a lot happier with whatever sewing, crafting, or project that you're working on. Okay. So we are now ready to work on the sashing and our setting. So when you look over here at the completed quilt, this one's all done except for the binding. I am ready to get my binding on. I'm going to use our shortcut binding tool. I'm going to put a perfect little gold orangey flange in there with a black border, and we're going to have another layer of gold pop on there. So I'm anxious to get that one completed. It's 98 by 98, so it's a nice square quilt, great for a king-size bed, and I can't wait to get it and sleep under it a little bit after I get that binding on. Okay, so here's our blocks, and here's our sashing, and we have this little Milky Way star that's going to just kind of pop out. We're not going to make the Milky Way star like you see up over here. We're not going to make it like that. We're going to make it, see here, you can see it as like a regular 9-patch block. We're going to do it just in sashing strips and half square triangles, sashing strip, half square triangles, and corner squares. Now, not only do I have a different way to set those sashings on your block to make them become part of your block, we also have a special way we're going to make these half square triangles. We have a way that we're going to do them so that they don't always twist so much on it, and it's going to allow everything to just lock together like Lego pieces. So I'm really excited to show you that. Most of the time in the traditional quilt world, they want you to make your blocks and then put your sashing strip in between, sew a block, and you're going to sew these in rows. And then you're going to have these skinny sashing rows that you're going to try to match up to all of that. And it just doesn't always work out the way that you hope and plan and want it to. So I'm going to show you a way that for me is foolproof, okay? So if you have not watched the first 2 classes, then you need to know that everything we do is with the square and a square system, and all of our units, unless it's a plain square or a rectangle, start out just like this. This is what we call the basic square. You're going to have your square in the middle, your strips on the side. Of course, you change colors and sizes depending on what project you're working on and what you need. We call those triangle units options, and we're up to option 44 with the Firefly. And we have some new ones that will be coming out in the next few months. I am so excited to show our premium club and our spring semester starting in January these new butterflies, fireflies, rooster tails. You're going to just be amazed. Excuse me, I had a sneeze coming on and I didn't want to do it. So we're going to start out with these basic squares. Now, since these are half square triangles, our sizing is going to be a little different than what we worked with for our flying geese. Of course, in the pattern, it gives you all that information. If you have the reference books, you can use the charts. But this quilt is so easily put together because everything we're doing is that 2-inch sewn size. So we don't have a lot of different sizes of strips and squares that we're working with. So that makes for less confusion, and it also makes it speedier because we're not constantly checking and measuring and picking up different pieces thinking, okay, is this the right size? So I love it when a quilt in the cutting is pretty much all the same. It makes it so easy. Now, yesterday somebody asked about pre-cuts, like a jelly roll that's a 2.5 inch. Just dig in. make this quilt with a 2.5-inch jelly roll. This is what this one is all about. And get some charm squares or buy some yardage to get your squares and you'll be ready to go. So let's head on over here to the sewing machine. We're going to work on these. Now in this basic square, we're going to get 4 half square triangles, and that's what we need for one Milky Way star. So one basic square for each Milky Way. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if I use 2, 4, 6 blocks, I'm going to need 12 of these. If I use 8 blocks, then I'm going to need 15 of them, because you have it on the outside, on the inside, and then on the, yeah, so yes. So in my quilt, I'm just doing 2 by 3, maybe 2 by 6. I'll have to see when I finally get it together what I'm liking, and if I really want it, that 98 inches from top to bottom. If you're making it for a twin bed, you probably do. But if you're just making it for a lap or a throw, you'll probably be happy with just the 6 blocks and not need the 8, okay? All right, let's head over to the sewing machine and let's get some of these sewn up. Now, I did a lot of this sewing on the basic squares in the first 2 classes. So if you're brand new to square and a square and how we do things, we do it so that we can remove the human element. And if you can remove as much human element as possible, then you're going to get more speed and more accuracy. So I just have my strip. I leave the selvage on because I need to start my strip. So that selvage edge actually becomes working fabric. And I'm just going to work with 4 little squares right now. Now I hope everybody knows that, especially if you're on YouTube, you can always go up and at the top of your screen and you can hit closed captions and you can turn them on or off. You can also speed things up if you want it to be faster than normal or slower than normal. You can do that. Now this was hard to do Jody fast. It's hard to do Jody fast because I already talk fast. Yeah, now this one was just a scrap piece that I had when I cut my strips, so I'm not going to get the full 40 inches out of it. Okay, so that's my 4 squares. I need to get it on all 4 sides. Remember to ask questions as you go along. And if there's, you know, an issue that you seem to always be having with your piecing, put it in the comments and say, I always seem to be too big, or I always seem to be too small, whatever. And let's talk about it today and see if we can figure out a way to help eliminate that. And it's always great to go back and look at when things are not working the way you want them to, whether you're doing square and a square or a different technique. Go back and look where the human's doing the work. Check your cutting, check your sewing, check your pressing, check your trimming, all of those different things that work you to that final result. And that's where you're either going to get the perfection or lose it. Okay, so this was just a scrap here that I had cut. So you can see how it got skinny and even cut in there. So when you run out of strip and you need more, just pick up another one and get started. And I can come back here and cut 2 off because I have 2 that have the 2 sides. And now this one, I have 2 that needs the other 2 sides. And I'm not going into detail on this a lot because we've already done it in both of the other classes. And so just go back and look wherever you're at, YouTube, Facebook, Premium Club, the webinars. And remember, we have squareinasquare.net. That is our teaching website. So that's where our Premium Club members go. That's where the Quilt Club Week people go. That's where you can go for your free webinars and classes. Okay, so that's my 2, and that will give 2 opposite sides on all 4 of those that I'm working on. And I want to get this out, so I'm just going to kind of veer over, put my scrap in there, and it helps push all this out. And I'm going to grab my bigger shears. And this is really how I work right here at my sewing machine. I don't take those to the cutting mat to cut apart. You can, but that's not normally how I work with it. Trim off any at the start or stop that is a little extra. I think this makes your block sloppy, and it's harder to press. When you have longer tails, they kind of twist. Okay, so now we're going to press these, and I stack them so that my strips are on top. I just kind of go over the top, and then I just slide them open. I've got to tell you guys that this patriotic fabric that we have, whether it's the Eagle or this Celebrate one here, and then when I was working with the darker one yesterday, that is We the People, it's just the texture of it and the softness of it is just really, really cool, really wonderful to work with, really excited about it. So there you can see our Celebrate, America Celebrate 1776-2026. So this is, we're getting ready for our 250-year celebration of our country, America. We have 18 months, and I really hope people will get started making some quilts. You know, quilting got its rebirth back in 1976 when we were having our bicentennial and our 200-year birthday. And quilting has kind of cooled off the last 20 years. It hasn't just kept that rapid growth like it did from 1976 into 2020. So I think we need to get a rebirth again of our art of piecing and quilting quilts. And I'm sure that Paducah, Houston, Road to California, all the big shows will be having different exhibits that is for the 250 year. So get started on those beautiful quilts. And use this fabric that we have that helps you celebrate it. We've got probably about 15 different pieces of fabric or more. And in the very first video that we did on Monday morning at 11 o'clock, I showed you the fabrics real quickly. So there's side 3. And then just go to the website and put fabric in the search bar and then see what pops up. We've got a couple of different lines that are my designs. Now, if you want to leave that one in there, you can just pick it up and get it back in the sequence, or you can put your little scrap in and get it out. And remember, part of the job of the scrap is to move the fabric out so that it's easy for you to come in and get the fabric off the pieces that you want. So now we, and these were just little leftover pieces that we had, and so you didn't see me cut any of them because I just went to our scrap box, and look at that. I got 4, and 4 is exactly what I needed. So now if you want to, if you're cutting these from your strips, go back to one of the other videos that we did yesterday because I showed you that in both of them. And I spent a lot of time while we were doing this talking about different things of them. Now, when I sew from here to here, that's the important part. That's what's going in my quilt, from seam to seam. See this seam right here and that seam? All of that is what's going into the quilt. This, you know, so the seam is here. From here to here, that's not going in the quilt. From there to there, that corner is not going in the quilt. So once I get to this seam, I don't have to pay attention. I can just let it go, because these corners are what we're going to trim off to get our half square triangles, flying geese, whatever it is that you're looking for. Okay, so I had all 4 of these here. And look how fast you can sew these 4. I can sew these 4 up. I can cut my pieces, sew my pieces, trim my pieces, and be ready to put them in a block. So I have 4 of these basic squares. I'm going to get 4 half square triangles. So that's 16 half square triangles is what I'm working on here, and 16 half square triangles in probably 15 minutes or less. So that's pretty good. So you can see how it's not that we're just really, you know, sewing fast and just acting like a speed demon on doing things. We're taking our time and enjoying the process, but the process is just speedy. And so, you know, I really doubt you can get 16 half square triangles in 15 minutes. Other ways, I haven't tried. I haven't sat down and done it, but just, you know, from what I know in my past of working with quilts that were not. Okay, so here I had one that got just a little twisted. I could feel it. You can either go through and redo that little corner, just press it flat, and also depending on what I'm making with this corner could be that 2-step trim, that's not going to matter. These are half square triangles. All of them are going to be 2-step trims. So here is something that you're learning just in the process of me doing this. This is not something that I would teach in one of our regular classes. So these are all going to be 2-step trimmed. So this little part that's kind of twisted back, that's not going to wind up in our quilt. So when we get to that one and we trim it, I'll show you more about what I mean. So the more that you know about the system, the more that you watch, the more that you understand, just the easier it gets, and all the little hidden things that are in there that you just don't really even know that are there that are beneficial are going to come to be. So I love it when the human can do this much work, and we can get that perfection. So let's go over and let's trim these up. Do we have any questions from anyone? Questions or comments?
Okay, when you have measured and have your quarter of inch correct for your option 3 and 4s, but when you go to cut, one side is longer than the other, what would be the issue?
Well, you have to go back and look at all of the human elements. The human elements are the cutting of the center square, the sewing of the seams, and the trimming. So it either your square was not a perfect square, or your seams were off just a little bit, most likely. So when you cut a square, let's just look at this little corner square here with the so let's just look at just, you know, cutting a square. So can we see this good? Okay. So this one here is a 4-inch square. So I really think that you need to be, those of you that are really striving and wanting to walk that road of improvement and understanding everything, this is going to be a good tip for you. So the lines on any ruler, no matter what you use to cut your squares and strips, have a width of a line. So whether you cut on this outside edge, whether you cut right on the line or cut on the inside edge of the line, all of that is going to either increase your block or decrease your block. And learning how you sew, become a quilt detective, really pay attention to the way you cut. Do you cut right on the line? Do you cut on the outside, inside, whatever? And do you do it consistently on all 4 sides? And then another thing is, of course, that's sewing. Now I want to, because we're in my sewing room, I have this and I can show you this. So, and it makes me kind of think of the deli department, because if you go to a deli department of a grocery store, and in that store, they can cut your lunch meat a certain width, or your cheese at a certain width, they should have a little chart up there, and you can say cut that at a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, or whatever, for the width of that slice of cheese or meat or whatever it is that you're doing. So just like your lines on your rulers, this is what the companies use. Any type of machinery type company has a chart like this to where they have certain sizes, and this is one that we use in the creation of our rulers so that we can tell them what size of lines that we want. So of course we want our lines, the thickness, to be big enough that you can see them, but not so big that it's going to affect the size. Now obviously when you look at this big one, you know, are you cutting here on this side? Are you cutting right in the middle? Are you cutting in there? It's very obvious that that's going to change the size of your square. But when you come in here to the smaller ones, you know, this one right here is probably about 3 threads of fabric. So, you know, by the time I cut my block 3 threads of fabric bigger on, you know, this side, but maybe I didn't cut it on these sides, then that's going to affect your block. Now, whenever I'm in person teaching, or when I'm helping someone on our text line, I always want to see the front of their quilt, of their work. I want to see the back. You know, I want to see the ruler on there and check that seam line. I want to see the ruler on here and check the size. And let me tell you that you may cut this, just stick with me here. You may cut this square just as perfect as you can. And you may sew these seams just as perfect as you can. And I get texts like this. My seams are great, my squares are great, but my sizing is not coming out the way I want it to. Okay, when you flip it over, and let's say that this is a 4-inch square. I think we measured it and it was. When you come in here to measure inside that seam, from the inside of the seam to the inside of the seam, if this is not 3.5 in here, it doesn't matter what size that is, and it doesn't matter what size those seams are. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna be the correct size. So a great way to do it is to sew your work up and then come in here and measure these insides. And don't just think because you measure this way, it's great. You got to come in here and measure the other way. And sometimes it's, you know, in your pressing, you don't have it, I'm going to say opened up and have a nice clean press. You've got a little bit of a pucker or a pleat in there. So this should be a 3.5, and lucky me, I've picked one up to show you that is great everywhere. Okay, so be a quilt detective. Go back in and check your cutting, your sewing, and now we're getting ready to trim. So of course the way that you trim your block. Now let's look at these pieces here on the table, since we're kind of at a stopping spot. Okay, can they see these?
Where do you want to go?
Right here. I don't know. Where do you want to go? You want a trip?
Let me see if I can. Okay.
Okay, so here are the blocks that we completed yesterday, and here are the pieces for our sashing that we need to get put together. So notice how we have a strip here that is our first sashing, and I cut this exact. I did not overcut these. These are the exact size. Here you can see some half square triangles, and the placement on this one, I already have a couple with my little corner square put on, and then of course you can see how my triangle units are down here. Now when you look at all of these, and I'm not going to worry about these and the direction. I'll worry about direction when I get to a bigger piece, but not here. But I want you to see, so see how that's the correct placement there. And I was going to look to see. Okay, and nope, it's opposite of what you have up there. So don't get confused with your side pieces of what they are and your top pieces. So see how these are out? See how the red is up and out, and it's down and out? And see how this triangle just, so it's here, it's here, it's here, and it's here. So if I pick those up and did that, okay, that is the same. Okay, I was thinking it's a change. When we get to putting these on, we'll double check these and make sure that we have these all the direction that they need to be. So that one has to be like that. So that's correct. And so this one here. So we'll double check these before we sew them on and make sure that that star is going to spin the correct way. Okay, so here we are with our basic squares that we're going to trim these into our half square triangles. Now these are all two-step, and then this one is not the one that has the little lip on it. Where did that one go? There it is. Okay, so this is the one that when I was sewing it, it got turned a little bit. And so I was like, well, these are all going to be half square triangles. We're going to two-step all the corners. So that's not going to matter. So I'm just going to put a little pin in that corner right there. So when we get to it, we can pay attention and see what's going to happen with it. Okay, so when we do our half square triangles, we need to two-step all four corners. And that means that you're going to push your 90 in there and you're going to step it over two lines. So here's my 90 in the corner, and I'm going to step 1, 2 times. And it should be right in the tip. This grid line should go right through my seam. Now, I know that from the edge of my ruler and this first one here is a 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. And that's what I need it to be. I need it to be this 5 inches through here. Because these half square triangles are 2.5 inches, and I'm getting 2 of them. So 2.5 and 2.5 is 5. So from here to here and from here to here has to be that 5 inches. Now with the little, you can with the others, but I just think the mini is just so great. So notice here how it lines up perfectly with that line. And I have it right in the tip. It's going right through that point. So once again, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. And I do think it's good to go and do the opposite side. That way you can get that nice parallel, and it'll help keep all of your half square triangles more consistent and more even. So now I'm checking horizontal lines there. I have it right in the tip. It's going right through there. Great. Now, depending on what you're doing with your half square triangles will determine whether you're cutting these up now, or whether you're fireflying them, or whether you're sewing a corner square to them. But these are just individual half square triangles. So now I'll just come through here and I'll just cut both directions. Once again, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. So I have it on that line, and it's going to go right through those corners. I have nice horizontal lines, top and bottom. Okay. Now, if nothing moved, it moved a little bit. Nothing moved, you can come back in and cut this direction. If it did move, then you're going to have to cut them one at a time. So here you can see how I'm just cutting through that point. I'm using the corner of the ruler. It's 2.5. Everything is working great. Okay, so now these are ready to go into your placement. Now, of course, if you have your pattern, I don't have mine out over here for us to look at, but I want you to look at how these are placed. It doesn't matter if your star turns clockwise or if it turns counterclockwise, but obviously you have to do it the same for all of them. And once you get one corner section set up, then you can just mass produce that all of that different way. And it kind of is like when you're working on this as one block, it's kind of like, okay, how is all this going to come together? So if you want to, just at the beginning for your placement, I want you to see how this corner is up and right, and then see how you just turn it one time, and then you turn it one time, and then you turn it one time. And that's how you get your turn for your Milky Way star, and that's also how you do a pinwheel. If you were going to do a pinwheel, of course your angle, this is your this center. So see how if you're going to do a pinwheel, you lay it out and you turn it one time, and you turn it one time, and you turn it one time, and there's your pinwheel block. And so that's just like what the Milky Way star is. You're turn it. So to make sure that I have my placement on all of these correct, because that's the thing, these half square triangles are notorious at getting turned the wrong way, because see, you have 4 sides and only one is correct. And if you don't get your piece sewn to the correct side, then your design is going to be off. And so you have 3 opportunities to do it wrong. And that's why half square triangles are just so notorious. So let's look. This one is correct here. So let's look at this one right here is the same as this one, and it's what's going to connect to the next one. So we know that this is correct, and we know that this is correct. So down here on this one is our top one, and so I think it should be turned this way just at first glance. So let's double check that that's what we need it to do. Now, if we, and these are actually turning right on my red quilt. And if you look up there at the Moonlight Star original quilt, those are turning to the left. So it doesn't matter which way you turn them, you just have to keep them all consistent. Okay, so we know this one is good. We've got 2 of these going here, or 3 of them with the little square already on them. I want you to see here how we started the strip in the machine and we loaded our little squares on there. And if you want to do them all at once like this, then it's really a great way to keep this very first one consistent and on the correct side. And we will do some of those here in a minute. But let's get back over here and let's trim this one that let's trim this one, and this is where that corner was. So let's go ahead and trim all 4 corners of him, and then I'm going to show you, we'll flip it over and I'll show you how it all worked out okay. So we're just going to go in here and 2-step these. So my line is right snug in that corner. My grid line goes through. It's lining up nice. I'm going to adjust it just a little bit. Remember, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. And if you're using the mini, it's just the line that's right under the phone number there. And we're going to go to the opposite side. And I'm looking here to make sure my grid line is staying nice and true. I'm going to do the opposites. And so see, when I get, down to the end, see how it's a 5-inch square. Okay, so now we'll come in here and cut through the sharp point. Try not to let your work wiggle or move. This one's probably going to stay stationary good, but this one is the one that can kind of pop up. So that one went pretty well. Okay, let's look at that corner. So there's your half square triangles, just like that. So these corners here were where that seam was. So let's look at what's happening. Those are great. And so right here is where it was. And so look, I just pulled that little edge off and it was okay. Now, if I was leaving the 1/4 of an inch, if it was too bad, you know, then you can go in and fix it. But otherwise, you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so let's get 3 of these going here. So I have 3 of those going well. Let's get 3 of these going. 1, 2, 3. I've got 1, 2, 3. So that's great. Okay, so I'm just going to pick these up just like this, and I'm going to bring them over to the sewing table. Now, I'm actually going to, so see, this one is already sewn to here, so it's not going to give me any trouble. It has to go here. These are the ones that can get twisted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them first. And I'm going to do them, lay them out here and do them all at once. And I can see that all of them look the same. And usually on like a big square or rectangle, I will overcut that strip, but on these sashings, I don't overcut them. They are the size that they need to be. See how with that scrap in there, my machine is ready to go. It's not going to chew up this corner. It's going to keep it neat and clean. And notice how I don't pick up my foot. I just slide it under. Now, I have owned lots of different sewing machines. I've been a Bernina brands. I've been a Bernina for, gosh, probably 35 years. I've had Berninas. But my first machines were not. They were just whatever I could afford and whatever I had at the time. And the point of what I'm saying is that every machine I have owned will sew quite a distance with no fabric in it and not be an issue. So you don't have to worry about these getting butted up too close. You know, I always say they can probably sew an inch with nothing in them. Okay, so I'm leaving that one in there. I've got these 2 cut off, and this one is ready to roll. So like I said, I didn't have to worry about them getting the wrong side because this was already on there. And that's why I started with the other end. Now, if you'll notice, notice how this red is up and to the left, and on this one that I just did the sewing on, see how the red is up and cornered to the left. So look at your work and come up with little ways to help you know that when you're doing it, that it's the correct. Because that's really, you know, when you get past the difficulty of making a half square triangle, then the other difficulty of it is keeping it turned correctly in the work so that the angle and the color is good. Okay, I want to get all of them out, so I'm just sewing my little scrap in there. I do it lengthwise because the part of the job of that scrap is to push this stuff out so it's easy to get to and separate. So now we're going to go press, and I'm going to press so that my half square triangles are flat. You can press open, But I think since we pressed most everything open that's in the block, it should be easy just to press these so that the half square triangles are flat. Notice how I come here, which is already stationary, and then I move towards my other with the flat broad side of the iron. I don't go in here with a nose doing it because see how that nose, the heat kind of like ripples out and it can distort your work a little bit. So I start right there on that seam and I just press just that simple seam, broad side of the iron into.
Have a question. Are you concerned with the direction of the fabric with the eagle head?
In the block, I'm not. The only place I'm going to be concerned is in the big parts of the quilt. So let's look up there at the Moonlight Star quilt, and let's point out those two areas. So everywhere in here, I'm not worried. So everywhere in here, what I call the inside or the meat of the quilt, or the main part of the quilt, I'm not worried about any of the directional. But when I get to this big rectangle is 6.5 by 8.5 up here, and you can see how it separates the stars. So I do want to make sure that my eagles are all turned correctly up here, and that will be in the cutting of your fabric. And then here you can see how this rectangle is horizontal, this one's vertical. So part of those big rectangles will be cut so that the eagles will be vertical, the piece will stand up, and part of them so that it's horizontal. And that's the only place I'm going to worry about it. Now, we're working on this inside piece right here. It's like 8.5 inches by 2.5. I'm not really worried about it. Then we have another one up here that we have to put on that's 12.5. You could get a little fussy with it if you wanted to, but I say it's just up to you and kind of what your OCD and your ADD and all those alphabet letters drive you crazy. If it drives you crazy, then take the time to do it. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Okay, so here we have this one here, and all of these are turning correctly. All of these look good. Now, of course, it's longer than the block, so we can't sew it on until we get this one sewn together the way that we want. Now, at the beginning of class, I was going to see if when I pick this up, if it's the same as this. And I know this one's correct, and I know this one is correct. This one's the one I'm wondering about. So let's just kind of pick it up and bring it over here. So see, you can see that those are the same. The red is going the same direction. So you can, if you're like mass producing all of the quilts, you can go in and sew a bunch of these together like this, and it will work here and it will work here, and then you can go in and sew the square on. So we can just go ahead and kind of take some of these over there. Since we have 3 here we're working on, and we have 3 blocks, then we need to get at least 3 of these going. So if you wanted to, you could take a sample over to your machine if you needed to, so that you can always double check what you've got going on. Because this right here is going to be the hardest thing of the whole quilt, is keeping these beautiful but cantankerous little half square triangles where they should be. Now this one here, if I fold it up like that, then I can see here with my work if it's going to be turned correctly. Now I am taking the time, I guess, when I lay these out, see how all of these little eagle heads are stacked correctly. So that means that on the quilt, the eagle head will kind of circle the quilt. Okay, so see how this one is up to the left? So that means this one needs to go up to the left like that. So see how you've got this seam here of your 45-degree angle, and it's going in your machine first. So when you're chain piecing these, it's allowing your machine to think it's just sewing all on one piece of fabric. It's not detecting that there's space in between, so it doesn't want to give you a bumpy ride as you go along. Okay, so now we're ready to sew these on the other side. So I'm going to flip this little guy over, and I'm going to turn. And I can see that these are all matching up the same. So it's like you can check, check, double check as you go along with your work. Okay, so I need it to look like that. So once again, it's up and to the left.
Could you use option 44 for the strips?
I would, you could do the Firefly option 44, but I wouldn't, just because of the size. If they were smaller rectangles here or squares, then yeah, but they're not. So, and if you were going to Firefly, you would have to determine, is the light in the middle of your square or is the dark in the middle of your square when you make your basic square? Now I need 2 more triangles here. Let's see if I got some already loose hanging around somewhere. Perfect, I do. Okay, put your scrap in. Push that fabric through. And let's press these. Handle your pieces gently. Okay, so see, we made sure that everything was consistent with our sewing. And, you know, I just worked on a few at a time. You can do that. You can just, you know, kind of work on a few at a time. That way that you don't have too much going on here and then things get moved or they fall off or whatever, and then you wind up sewing something in the wrong space. You can get these sewn together and get them back and check them and then start on another batch. Okay, let's go see where we're at. So those are the ones with our solid square, and we got our solid square by that. And the way that you start these on here is what's going to determine whether these are going to the right or to the left. And these are working here, and they look good there. So these are already squared up, and I have 3 blocks ready to roll, and I have 1, 2, 3 here. There's an extra one. So we're going to go over and get these put on. Now, no matter how many blocks you have in the quilt, all of your blocks, we need to put 2 sides on. And then whatever is your bottom row or last row, whatever you want to call it, then we're going to put 3 sides on those. And then one will wind up putting all 4 sides on, and that's how you get to lay them out and how they all fit together. So let's get going with that. Now, if you're in Quilt Club Week, if you're in Premium Club, we have some videos on sashing where it talks about how to put these on and make your sashing part of your block. Okay, so what I've done is I've just matched up this first one, and see how it was pressed open. So these are working great, just pressed to that rectangle. So I sew to the first connection, and then there's a point and a seam here and here. So usually I like to sew with the small piece on top, but you do want to make sure that one's lining up good. So what I do after I check to make sure it's lining up good, and you can put a pin there. But now I have a point right here that I need to match. So I just use my stiletto. I can feel it right there where it's at, and I'm just going to hold it, making sure everything is staying smooth. And I can make sure it goes right through that intersection exactly where I want it. Made sure those were pressed open, so I want to make sure they fit in there good. Double check, make sure that's not. So it's in the sewing of these long sections where you're not checking points that your underneath part can move and you're not have enough fabric in your seam, and therefore you can lose the integrity of that seam and it will rip out within use, maybe even on the long arm. Oh. Yeah, we do have some stilettos back in stock. They're just the natural wood. They're a little bit flat on one side so they don't roll around on your table. And I do use a stiletto mostly when I am putting blocks together, just like you saw me do here. Now, I don't want my, now if you do pin, come in and do your first 2, your intersection here and here. And that's really the only thing you have on your sashing strip to line up is here and here. And then you can just kind of see how it's all, if it's everything's, you know, good. And then go to the middle. But I don't pin right in a seam. I pin next to it. A seam is too bulky and it moves things around. Okay, now I'm getting close to that point. The other thing that I love about a stiletto is it can help me peek under there without moving stuff around. And if I need to move my fabric a little bit one direction, I can move it just a thread or two. And it helps hold things while it gets close to the needle. It can smooth out your fabrics. It can hold that little seam allowance edge down so that your foot doesn't grab it and pick it up. And it can hold that corner for perfection. Now, so this is going to go like this. And let's see if it gets turned this way. It still works. It's still the same. So once you get these on here right, when you start putting them on your block, you don't have to worry about which way they're going. Okay, so my underneath piece is kind of moving a little bit, so there we go. Okay, so we have those three done. We will separate them and press. We need to get them all out. Now, when we press on this one, I think we're going to press it open too. And that one I didn't get, that pressing open flat. And that was down here at the bottom one. Let me see what I want to do. I'm just going to give it just a tiny little clip. And it will press flat that way. Can they see good here with the press? So some of these that I've pressed open, I'm just kind of hopping around on them a little bit, just reminding them that I want them to stay open. So the tan eagle vine on the website, yes, it should be. And the tan eagle vine comes in this tan, it comes in a red, it comes in a blue. And one of the next ones that I'm going to work on with our patriotic fabrics is doing just plain stars. It's probably 6 or 8 inch. And I'm going to reverse colors on them. So some of them will have like the dark black background like you see here. And then the star will be light. And then I'll reverse it and have the background light and the star dark. And then you just put those squares together and it's just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful quilt. And that's a great one to work on when you don't have a lot of the same fabric. So how many of you guys are working on Christmas gifts? I know some of our Premium Club members have been working on Christmas gifts and getting some things done that they've been showing, anywhere from quilted covers for mixers and toasters and pillows, lap quilts, baby quilts, pillow shams.
A lot of people like their stilettos.
Yes. Yeah, once you learn to sew with a stiletto, and I use a stiletto when I put my binding on, I really, really like a stiletto. Okay, so there's how they look. So you can see you've got nice points on there.
Tree skirts.
Tree skirts, yeah. So I saw some on some social media that some tree skirts that people were making. So we have a two things that we do. Well, we teach our spring and fall semesters, and you can sign up for Premium Club Week. I finally decided I had about 5 different ideas that I wanted to do for a spring semester, and I finally decided on what we're going to do. So I'm going to be working on those the next few days of getting our spring semester finalized and ready to go, and it will start usually around the second Monday. It kind of just depends on how the calendar falls, and it can go to Mother's Day. We don't go past Mother's Day. So we have about 12 to 15 classes that we can do in the spring, and in the fall semester, depending on what we're teaching, depends on how early I start, whether it's before Labor Day or after, because we go to usually to the Monday before Thanksgiving, so that would be like now, the week before Thanksgiving week. And so that's usually around 9 classes. I can add 1 by starting earlier, or 2 if we need to for the project. But all of the past projects are in the Premium Club portal or website, squareandasquare.net. And that's where you can go and watch past things in between. Okay, so we have those on. We have those pressed. Let's get over here. Let's see about getting the other side on. So everything looks good. Everything's the same. So these already, we have that little corner square on because we sewed them on the strip. And so that got our direction, and it kept those in the proper place. So now these are ready to go on. You can kind of see our little star starting to take shape. And remember, the stars just turn one time, turn one time, turn one time as you go around. And then after we have these on, I can show you how the stars start fitting together. And then the big star that is in the border, it's just really, it's, you know, just like this red one that we did, but it just has the plain center in the middle. So you just switch up your colors. And this one I'm really excited about because it's going to be like red in the middle, and then we have our black, and then we have our red of our little Milky Way star, and then we're going to have the black star from this in the border going around. So I think it'll be a really pleasing and pleasant to the eye. And this is our last class of our marathon, but keep watching. Make sure that you have your notifications on for your Facebook or YouTube or make sure you're on the email list, because I may be doing some in my sewing rooms, just kind of live at the moment, in finishing the quilt and putting it together. So how many of you guys are having Thanksgiving at your house? You're the hostess. How many of you are going somewhere? It kind of seems like in our family, it's been a family of all women, if you know about the novels or any of the stories. And so, you know, my mother, when I was a little girl growing up, my grandmother always had it. There'd be, you know, 25 of us in a tiny, tiny little house, but we never knew. It was just full of love and good smells of cooking. And then it kind of went to her youngest daughter, and she hosted Thanksgiving for many, many years. And then my mother would do Christmas a lot. And then, probably back about 97 or so, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. I moved from our small little starter home to a little bit bigger home, so we had a little bit more room, and we hosted it at our house for many years. And then all of our family started venturing towards Texas, and my youngest sister and I lived about a mile apart, so we took turns hosting different Thanksgiving and Christmases. And then about 10 years ago, we moved to the country, out of the metroplex of the Dallas-Fort Worth and more to the country. And we just kind of take turns hosting between me and two other sisters, just kind of depending on what everybody's doing. And this year we're going to go to Fredericksburg, where sister number 2 lives. And that's kind of been our Thanksgiving location for a couple years. We did San Antonio and did the big river parade, and with, you know, 20 or more floats all lit up on the river there in San Antonio at the Riverwalk, and that was really pretty, and the grandkids really enjoyed all of that we did. But last couple years we've just done Fredericksburg, and there's a lot to do there. And now that the little grandkids are getting older, they realize Fredericksburg has a wonderful downtown, small town shopping, big town shopping, I guess, for small town. And so now they all we go to Fredericksburg and do Thursday for Thanksgiving, and Friday we do some shopping for Christmas. And my little granddaughter is a teenager now, so she really enjoys getting to do some of that shopping and picking out her Christmas gifts. So we kind of make a whole weekend out of it, a 3-day event, and there's usually about 10 or 12 of us.
You asked about Christmas gifts. Heather is making pajamas for her grandsons.
Oh, that's an awesome idea.
And she has for multiple years.
Oh, how fun. Well, that's something that they'll use and enjoy and think of you. That's a great idea, and it's something that, you know, you can get done in a reasonable amount of time and easy to do. I haven't done any of that in a long time. I need to think about doing that. It's a great idea. Okay, so we have these 3 done. Let's press them, and then we can start looking at how we're going to put them together. And I can't believe how fast our classes go. Make sure you get any questions in that you have.
I have a question. Was the class done on the block that Kay was working on at retreat?
No, Kay, okay, so that was something I was going to talk about for those of you that are new. We do the Quilt Club week in the fall, and we do a retreat in the spring. This year it's a Monday to a Friday, and it's, I know that April the 17th, that 17 number is in there. I don't know if that's the Monday that we start or not, but it's that week where you have the 17th of April, Monday to a Friday, will be,
Good Friday. Friday is Good Friday.
Friday is Good Friday, and we're done that morning.
Yes.
People leave on that Friday morning. Okay. And it is, we have people fly in, we pick them up at the airport, whether in Dallas, whichever one they come in, whether it's Love or the big DFW one. We make it as easy as possible. If you don't want to bring a machine, we have machines, and that's our big spring event that people really have fun. It's a teaching retreat. You bring what you want to work on, but we also have breakout classes, and we have Kay and Kathy there to help teach, and we have Jenny and Lisa that help, and Sherry. So here, can they see all of that block?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really pretty when it starts coming together. So that is our retreat thing. And then what was the question?
The project that Kay was working on.
Okay, so Kay was, we had a student that needed help adapting a pattern, so Kay was helping her adapt the pattern, and it's kind of off of the Storm at Sea, and so during a retreat you got to see it. Now, Kay is going to be teaching that at Quilt Club Week this year of 2025, so she's been working on it and adapting it. Now, our student, of course, worked on it at retreat and got hers done. In fact, this particular student has picked patterns that it's been fun to adapt, and ones that are difficult, kind of Mariner's Compass type things. So that's fun. So that one's coming. To answer, I always give a long answer. That one's coming. It's beautiful. We did it with the new Shadow Batik fabrics, and it is just really, really, it's one of those designs you look at and you think, oh, that is pretty, but I could never make it. But then once you realize how to break it down, and we just make it achievable. So
To follow up on your question on Thanksgiving and all of that, we have a lot of responses on there.
oh, what are some things people are doing?
Well, Sherry's passed hers to her daughter, and Lori is hosting Thanksgiving. My daughter and her husband and 2 boys from Michigan have having family from Switzerland and Maryland, so they'll have 11.
That's nice. That's a nice size. We have about 10 or 12, and that's a nice size.
So quite a bit going on. Some are looking forward to retreat, putting it on their bucket list.
Yay. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and send Steve an email, steve@squareandsquare.com, and he can get you going with your retreat. But he'll be sending that stuff out probably right after New Year's, right? Is that when you start the official sign-ups?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. Okay.
Trying to figure that out.
All right, we're about to get this last pressing done, and we'll look at our pieces. Now, usually a sashing on a quilt, you just go around one time, like what I've done here. But with this little Milky Way star, we have additional on it because we have to finish the star up here. Okay, so you can see how that if we just had one row going around, which is normal for a quilt, and you have 2 sides on, see how now those 2 go together and it reacts just like a block to a block, and it's much easier to work with than if you have these all in long rows. And then, can you see over here? Yeah. And see, it really doesn't matter on this, the direction of your eagles. It really doesn't matter. It's not showing up that, oh, I should have, or oh, you didn't, or, you know, any of that. It's just showing up and reading really nice. So let's say that you have, well, here we have 3. I'm actually going to work on 2. 2 stars across, and then up here on the quilt we had 4. So you can see how now these just work, boom, boom, boom. Now when these go below, can they see that? Mm-hmm. See how this one works just like that, and then your other one would work just like that. Now when you get to your outside rows, then you need to have this other one that is a little bit larger. So let's see if that's a larger one. Yeah. So like this strip here was, I think, 8.5. And now this one has to cover the whole thing. And this is not on every block. This is just the ones that go around. Now you could do it now on your quilt if you wanted to, for the ones that were on the side, or you can just wait till the end and do it, whichever is easier for you to do. And I think I'm just going to wait till the end to do it. So let's go over here and let's look at this sashing just a little bit more, because this is a totally different concept of doing your sashing. So here is our block like we have it now. You'll have this. Okay. So here's our block now the way that you have it. It's from my hand down. But when you look above, you see that you have a long rectangle and some half square triangles. And you do that just along the outside edge. So you could kind of treat that as like your first border if you wanted to. If you want to, you can add it to your block, but you're going to have to pay attention to where it is. So if I'm just doing 2 blocks across and then however many down, you can see how they come together to build that star. Whoops, I should have been up. Sorry.
How about alternating the red star with the black in the middle?
You could. That would be really pretty. Like in our moonlight star, we put the black in the middle and then did the gold around for the points. In this one, we've done all of the red. Personally, I wanted it all bold red and bold red, since I already had this one that was different, but it certainly would be pretty to put the black there in the center if you want. So if I'm doing 2, and it would be the same for you, just wherever your outside edges are, whether you're doing 2, whether you're doing 3, 4, however many it is that you're doing. So see how these keep coming. And then another, and then you continue your rows. Then when you get to the bottom, you're going to have to add your sashing, because you're not, as long as you're adding a block to it, see how this one becomes with that one. So whenever you get to your bottom row, whatever your bottom row is, you have to do it on 3 sides. You'll have 1, 2, 3, and that would be your bottom row. And then you'll have to go back in and do your last row with your half square triangles going around. And of course you would do that on all 4 sides so that your stars finish and come on out. Now you could do some funky stuff with your borders. You could think about it and make this in the corners jump into your border and whatever it is that you're doing there and be done and not do all of this. It's just kind of up to you how you want to do it. So I've got a couple of more over here that we can do. So we're gonna do these. And we're going to do them like they're the bottom. So the bottom ones will have to have 3 sides on them. So first thing I have to do is make sure any overcut is done out of the corners. And I know it's probably going to be hard for you guys to see. Can they see? They can see. Okay. Okay, so those are all done. So let's get these laid out here and let's see what we need. So that's one of the extra long ones. So we need 3 sides on these. So that's a lot of these. I may not have enough of them. Let's see here what we have. That's the bigger ones. And this right here is one that can be our sample that is completed. Okay, so let's get these cut, because we're going to need that for the bottom also to finish. I'm just going to press these real quick. You don't have to follow me if you don't want to.
So why just 3 sides?
Well, it's the bottom. Maybe let's draw this out. Let me grab my clipboard, because I don't have a great example of this one for my sewing today. Okay, can they see right here? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my quilt. Here's my blocks. So let's say we're going to do 3 by 3. You can do any number that you want. Okay, so these are all quilt blocks. So I'm going to do QB. So it's just like this. It's just like a quilt block. It can be any size, color, whatever. So you need, where I'm doing these dots, this is where your sashing is at. And we're just going to play like that. We just have 1 round of sashing, because that's what you normally have on a quilt. This one's a little bit more on those outside edges because you have another round. So this is where you need sashing. Okay, does that make sense? That's where you need sashing. Now I'm going to get a different color. And these, on all of them, you're going to do 2 sides. So I'm just going to kind of do this. So see, you've got 2 sides that you're doing. And these here, you're going to do 2 sides. So you do that, and then you do that. So I'm just going to kind of color that in. Okay, so see, those had 2 sides. Now this one here, it has 2 sides. So see, there's 1, 2, 1, 2. You guys tell me if this is making sense to you. So here's one side, here's the second side, here's one side, second side, one side, second side. So you can see how every quilt block needed 2 sides on it. Now you come in here to the bottom and see how you have to put 3 sides on. So if I had 9 blocks, I would take all 9 blocks and I would do 2 sides. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? Then I would take the ones that are going to be on the bottom and I would add that 3rd side. And then the ones that are on the other side, see how they need a 3rd side so that they can go together. And the very last one, no matter which corner you put it in, it needs all 4 sides. Okay, let me know if that made sense to you. Okay, so I'm going to go through it and do it now with my quilt blocks. Okay, so they can see this. Okay, so if I'm going to make 9 blocks for my quilt, I'm going to take all 9 blocks and I'm going to do 2 sides, just like you saw me do earlier today. Then I'm going to take 3, that's because that's my bottom row, and I'm going to add a 3rd side to it. And then I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to add a 3rd side to it. And then I'm going to take the corner one and it's going to have all 4 sides on it. And then when you put them together in rows, then they're like blocks and it's all done. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, I need some more triangles here, and we have a little bit more class time here, so we're just going to keep working on these sashings, and then that way if you have any last minute questions, you can get those in. I hope you guys have enjoyed the classes and that you have learned a lot. And as we continue, as I get more work done on these and I continue to finish the quilt, I will do some in my sewing rooms. So this border section here that I'm working on that we're not going to get finished in class today, just make sure on, I'll do these just as regular unstructured in my sewing rooms. So make sure on Facebook and YouTube, most likely Facebook of the regular Square in a Square page. Make sure that you, you know, like, follow all of that so that you can know when I'm working on them, and then you can see me as I finish the quilt. Because as I get my sashings on and get things completed, I'll do more lives so that you can see the steps. And of course, if you have not gone to squareandsquare.net to join, you need to go there so that you can sign up with your email to join. And then it's easy to go back in. Like if you miss a live, It might be hard to find it on Facebook. You can always go back in and look at pictures and videos and stuff, but a lot of people don't know that they can do that. And it's a little harder to find stuff because things get pushed back. There we go. And if you just go to squareandsquare.net, then you can just use the search bar and go into Quilt Club Week or In My Sewing Room or wherever and find them easy.
Light bulb moments.
They've had some? Oh, good. Tell me what light bulb moment you had. Was it? I'm always interested to see. Is it in the options? Is it on the sashing? And the thing about doing your sashing like that is that then they all fit together the way they're supposed to. Than sewing long, skinny rows together.
Taking notes like Petra.
Oh, yay. For those of you that don't know, Petra is one of our Premium Club members. She lives in Germany, so you can, join our club no matter where you're at because it's online, so it doesn't matter what location you're in. And then Petra she does notes like nobody, and she shows them on our Premium Facebook page. So, alrighty, so these are going up. These are going to go down. We'll get some more of these sewn, and then I'll see if I can't get a third side on some of these other ones before we have to call it quits for today. So they're taking notes. They've had a light bulb moment. Did we find out what her light bulb moment was?
Let's see. I know. This is my first marathon. It's my favorite activity so far. Thank you so much. Great to see every step and the quilt come together.
Now this was a official In My Sewing Room. You got emails. They were certain days and certain times, and normally on the In My Sewing Rooms,
Wait a second, where'd you go?
it's just. Did you not move me over?
I didn't.
Come on, Steve, pay attention here.
Okay, here's a light bulb moment.
Okay.
I have had trouble figuring out how to sew sides 3 and 4 on the basic block.
Oh.
So that was a light bulb moment.
Yay, yeah. Now, if you haven't watched those in my the option overviews, go in and watch the option overviews. And the very first one, we do the basic square. So you'll get even more tips and hints. Uh-oh. See, I'm talking, not paying attention. You'll get even more tips and hints on that option overview.
And those are part of the free webinars.
They're everywhere. I'm trying to think where they can watch this sashing. We did it with Village. Oh, if you're in Premium Club or Quilt Club Week, you can go in and watch the Village Square sashing. We did a really good video on it, on that. And if you're in Premium Club, go to the technique section of Premium Club, and it'll have everything broke down, setting a block on point, sashings, shortcut binding tool, just all the different techniques that we refer to and use. Any other questions, comments? How about, I've been watching a lot of recipe stuff with holidays coming up. And there's all kinds of different recipes for sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, you know, how to do your turkey, whatever. Does someone have a certain recipe that they really like? Do they do, you know, here in Texas, we do jalapeno dressing. We do, you know, what's a food tradition or something that to you just really makes it Thanksgiving. Now when I was little, our grandmother, we just lived in a little rural farming town, and my grandmother lived in town, kind of in the middle of town, and we lived out in the country, but it still was, you know, easy to get to her. It wasn't a long ways, just across our little tiny town, and I just remember being a little girl and leaving, and the crispness, you know, whether it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, just the crispness of the air outside, and the clouds and the full moon, you know, looking for Santa in the sky, and you know, just sweet little kid, little girl memories. Okay, so can you see down here? Mm-hmm. Is that all right? Okay. So if this is going to be the bottom of my quilt, I need to add a row to the bottom. So just like this row that I had on top is going to come down here, because this is my bottom row. So I need to finish this out. So I'm going to sew that on. And I'm going to do that. This would be 3 sides, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do that to all of my bottom row. So I'm just going to clip that on there.
Hey, you wanted some recipes? We got.
What do people like?
My grown children love Watergate salad. Not sure what that is.
Ooh.
Watergate salad, and then savory cranberry chutney.
Oh, that one sounds good too. So what is it in the Watergate salad that makes it a Watergate salad? And I'm assuming it's a cold salad, but it could be a Jell-O salad. It could be a green salad.
My big aha moment this semester has been how to use the ruler for 2-step cutting. I first use the seams to line the ruler, then use the cut edge for the second cuts. Watching you do this is great.
Yes, that way we can get it the size that we need it to be, not too big, not too small, right as we're making the cutting. That's great. I'm glad that you latched onto that. We did that a little bit today in cutting the half square triangles.
Pistachio pudding.
Ooh. Now, Steve, your mom made a Jell-O salad you always liked, wasn't it? Did it have like carrots and celery in it?
Yeah, Jell-O salad, carrots. But it actually had cheese shredded on top that looks like carrots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't made that in a long time.
Marshmallow. Oh, this is the Watergate one. Marshmallows, Jell-O, walnuts, Cool Whip.
Oh, marshmallows, Jell-O, Cool Whip. I like that.
Not Jell-O, pistachio pudding.
Oh, pistachio pudding.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to have 2 here with three sides on them. Let's get these, I don't know that I'm going to take time to press them here. Okay, so if we were, and you, um,
What,
so when you're doing the sashings and you're working on the 3 sides, it doesn't matter if you decide that they're at the bottom or if they're at the side or if they're at the top. You can decide wherever that is. You can start building from the bottom and go up, or from the top and go down. It's just that whatever one row will have to have those 3 sides on. And in my example, I talked about that being the bottom row. And one square will have to have 4. And then okay, so if this was my, and in this quilt I'm just doing 2. So we're going to work here with 2. Well, that's going to have to be my bottom row. So, okay. Okay, so if I'm doing 2, then I have one just like this, and I have it here. And then this is my bottom row. We'll play like this is my bottom row. And see how I have 3 on there? And this is my other bottom row. I don't know that I have them lining up correctly, but okay, so if this is my bottom row, see I have 3 on and I have 3 on, and see how this one connects up with here, this one connects up with here, and then you would just build for however many rows you have. But if I go any lower on here, you won't know, you can't see it. And so, and then whatever my corner one is, I have to do that 4th side on. So no matter how many blocks, you do all of them with 2 sides. Whichever ones you decide is your, I'm going to say bottom row, you do 3 of. And then you're going to have either 1 or more on a side that you have to do 3 on. And then you're going to have 1 that you do 4, that you do all 4 sides. And then they all connect up, and it's really pretty. I think it's really coming together well. I think it's looking good. We'll do some more lives as I get them together, and probably what I'll do, once I decide how many blocks I'm going to have, whether I'm going to do 6 or whether I'm going to do 8. I'm kind of thinking 8 because I'm kind of thinking it'd be great for one of the grandsons on their twin beds if I do it the 98 by whatever the width is on it. And remember, this border from this corner of this star on is like 17 inches. So you're going to add 17 inches this way and that way. So it really is going to be a true twin size if I go down and do 4, 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 rows. And I think I'll do that so that a grandson can have it. But what I'll do is I'll finish up on my sashings. I'll get my blocks all ready to go and get the quilt more for a set it together, let's be done, and I'll do a live for it. If I can orchestrate it so that we can do it more as a production, like we did these 3 for the marathon, then we'll do it. But you need to make sure that you're on the email list, make sure that you have your notifications and your bells and everything on. You need to make sure that you have our address in your address book so that when we send out an email, it doesn't go to spam, because you may get notified about it and it's in your trash or your spam, and then you'll miss it. Also, YouTube and the Facebook pages, make sure that you like, follow, and have all your bells and whistles turned on so that you'll know about it. And when I get a little bit farther with it, I don't know when that will be, I would say sometime between now and the end of the year, then we'll do another live on it, and you can see how we bring it all together for you. I'll get some more of the borders done, and we'll just do, we'll call it a settings class.
Does the top left corner not need 4 sides?
All of the blocks will have 4 sides on them when you're done, but you only need 1 block, no matter how many blocks you have, that has all 4 sides. Okay?
You mean when you first
Yes, so I'm going to repeat that. So no matter how many blocks you have, all of them get 2 sides. Whatever blocks would be your bottom, and I guess I could say and your side, you'll have to put 3 sides on. And then the one that's in the very corner, no matter which corner, no matter how you do it, you'll need 4 sides on. Okay?
So it could be the top left or the
Yeah,
bottom
it could
left.
be any of the corners depending on
Yeah.
how you set it up there. I just set mine up so it was top and right. I could have done it so that it was left and bottom.
And your drawing helped out too.
Yeah, good, good. And if you are in, if you are in the teaching website, squareandsquare.net, whether it's just with the free webinars, whether it's with Quilt Club Week or with Premium Club, just go to any one of those little modules in squareandsquare.net. In the search bar, put in settings, and I think that video will pop up where it's what I call a very official teaching on the settings, where everything's all planned out. Boom, 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 boom. Okay?
On the stars you just completed, how many would you need for a lap quilt?
If you're going to do a lap quilt, depending on the length that you want, anywhere from 6 to 8. If you do 6, so it's like 2, 2, and 2, I think that would be a nice lap quilt. If you have tall people in your family that want to cover up on the couch with it, then I would think you need 2, 4, 6, 8. So if you do 8, you're going to have that 98 inches if you do the borders and everything the way that we do. So anywhere 6 to 8. I think I've decided I've kind of toyed around back and forth, but after I thought about what I might do with the quilt, and that I got lots of little grandsons that's going to be moving into twin beds before too long, so they'll need a nice twin size quilt. And so those of you that don't know, I have two little grandsons that live out of the country. The oldest of those little brothers is 3, and so it has become a big deal for him. When people ask where he's from, he says America. It's become a big deal. So this quilt is celebrating America and their 250th birthday. And they will be here this 4th of July, and it'll be his first 4th of July of fireworks and all of that. So I'm thinking that this quilt is going to go home with him this summer and fit on his twin bed that he has. He's 3. And since he's so excited about being American and telling everybody he's from America.
And he's only been to America a little bit.
Let's see, he was here when he was 9. He wasn't even born in America. So let's see, he was here when he was 9 months old, and he was here when he was 2.5. He was here last Christmas. And then he'll, well, no, he would have been, I guess he'll be 4 this summer when he comes. Yeah. So he was here at 9 months. He was here at 2.5, and then he'll be here at 4.
He's American.
But he's American. So I think that'll be really special for him. And he's got a new little brother, so all of his little baby quilts and baby blankets and all that have been moving over to him. So I think that'll be good. So any last minute questions coming in?
Just enjoyed it all.
Good. Well, Merry Christmas to everyone. I have my Christmas shirt on today. Doing the marathon was a lot of fun for us, and hopefully we got people inspired and motivated and got some knowledge, and maybe got some new people realizing that they can do this and make these beautiful quilts without all the hassle and the headache. We're going to be busy working on spring semester. Steve's always tweaking the websites and making things fun and enjoyable for you guys with the new technology. And like I said, we've got new techniques that we're going to be teaching in January, not so much as an overall quilt as into just learning and gleaming the knowledge. Of course, you can always take your blocks and turn them into whatever you want, but it won't be a focus of an overall quilt. It's going to be more on techniques. We're going to move forward with, like we did with the firefly, just advancing on with the half square triangles and making things easier, making complicated things very simple in skill, knowledge. I mean, really, if you can cut squares and strips and you can sew a seam, all of this is achievable. And so some of the new ones that's going to be coming in our January, our spring semester, are going to be and one of the fun things too is that you guys have helped me name these. So we've got rooster tails, butterflies, dragonflies. We already have the fireflies. So we've got different cute little names for all of them to help people remember them and be able to search right to that technique and go with it. So we're just going to be moving on with the options and the versatility of them. I'm really excited about it. I think you guys will really have a good fun time with them. So make sure you're all tuned in on all of the social media so that you'll get your notifications and you'll know. And I will come back and show you more with the quilt. I hope you've enjoyed the marathon. Happy Thanksgiving. Be thankful and appreciate your blessings. You can always find somebody that's got more heartache and hardships than you do, no matter where you're at on that scale of blessings. And you guys are all certainly a blessing to us, and we're very grateful for you. And I hope you have a very happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas. And we'll see you in some of these in my sewing rooms, but we'll be sure and see you guys in January for our Premium Club spring semester. Stay tuned. Lots of great things coming. Bye for now.